microphones, right? Good. Canto for passive. Good. Okay. So Kristen, thank you for setting this up. We have people connecting with us online, so we're going to be using the microphone even though it might be unnecessary for those in the room. Give me 1 second to tune my guitar. And Kristen, can we turn off half of the lights? Thank you, Michael. That's great, thank you. It's very close. You know that there's also a custom in Tisha B'Av to really do the readings by candlelight, and to sit on the floor and to adopt some of the morning customs of our tradition, because Tisha B'Av is by definition the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. I don't know for how many years Shir Hadash didn't mark 9 of Av at the synagogue here, for several, right? So, so Sinai and Beit David are doing it together, and they're doing a very traditional Tisha B'Av, which I think is beautiful and important. But we felt that it was important to do slightly different Tisha B'Av for us here at Shir Hadash, and to take some of the components that are most traditional, and at the same time to bring some other components into our experience. And Tisha B'Av also has a very specific rules in terms of what you are supposed to study and what you are not supposed to study, because part of the engagement in Torah study is supposed to bring you joy, and today is not a day of joy, and therefore we don't really engage in Torah study. We do study Torah, but only if it's related to mourning or to something that makes the point of Tisha B'Av, which it limits it a little bit, and we will do anyhow. So each one of you has a booklet, and the way in which we hope to go about this is by asking for participation and for people to join us as readers. We have microphones that we are going to be turning around, and we hope that everybody will read and participate if you feel comfortable doing that. So without more introductions, let's get started. We're going to open our booklets in the very first page, the thing from the Mishnah. May I ask for a reader? Krista, I got the opposite direction. Don't be, but let's do it popcorn. I have some names also of people that I saw and I asked them in advance. But is anybody feel uncomfortable reading? So is there any name that I shouldn't say? Okay, like if you are like give me a look. If you are that person, give me a look, and I will notice. I'm gonna screen the room. Just give me a blink. Nobody will know but me, and I will not call your name. Okay, nobody blinked. So if I know your name, okay, sorry.
Five calamitous events occurred to our forefathers on the 7th of Tammuz, and 5 other disasters happened on the 9th of Av. On the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken by Moses when he saw that the Jews had made the golden calf. The daily offering was nullified by the Roman authorities and was never sacrificed again. The city walls of Jerusalem were breached. The general Apostemos publicly burned a Torah scroll, and Manasseh placed an idol in the sanctuary.
Still you.
On the 9th of Av, it was decreed upon our ancestors that they would all die in the wilderness and not enter Eretz Yisrael, and the temple was destroyed the first time, in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, and the second time by the Romans, and Beitar was captured, and the city of Jerusalem was plowed, as a sign that it would never be rebuilt. Not only does one fast on the 9th of Av, but from when the month of Av begins, one decreases acts of rejoicing.
We'll now turn to the next page. Another portion in Hebrew, the next one. I will help. These are the words from the book of Ecclesiastes, from Kohelet. Together. Let's start again. למות לטעת לקור נטוע בעת לרוב בעת לרפוא בעת לפרוץ בעת לבנות ידה לה 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 ידה לה 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 ידה לה 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 ידה לה 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 לה. The music is very repetitive. It's a way to meditate in the text. And after be confusing you, now that we did a bit more clear, let's go to the second verse and let's try to do it together. לבכות ועת לצחוק צפות ועת ריקות ועת לבקש ועת להיאבד ועת לשמור בעת להשליך ידה לה 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 ידה לה 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 ידה לה 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 ידה לה עת לקרוא עת ליפול עת לחצות בעת לדבר עת לאהוב עת לשנוא עת מלחמה ועת שלום ידה לה 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 ידה לה ידה לה ידה לה ידה לה ידה לה Yaralai, yaralai, rai, rai, rai. Tisha B'Av in the shadow of October 7th. The devastating cruelty of the ruthless, bloody pogrom we suffered in southern Israel on October 7th, during which hundreds of our people were taken captive. The fact that, starting on October 8th, this was followed by attacks from the north, and that since then, we find ourselves in the midst of a horrific war. The reality that our sovereignty was undermined, that our people were taken, that we have been attacked from Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. The bitterness of our siblings' cries, not by the waters of Babylon, but from the hidden tunnels of Gaza. This year, Tisha B'Av is not merely symbolic. It is tangible and painfully real. It is even more poignant as we reflect on the reality of October 6, the disputes within Israeli and Jewish society that should have reminded us of the rabbinic claim that the temple was destroyed due to baseless hatred among siblings. After the 7th, there was silence, followed by voices of unity and mutual support. However, as time passed, the sound of our disputes, turning into sinat hinam, unjustified hatred, grew louder and louder. Can we hear anything beyond our own voices or the threatening voices of those with whom we disagree? Can we listen? Can we talk? Will we be capable of returning and rebuilding together? Perhaps for now, today, can we pause and focus on mourning together? On this Tisha B'Av, we will add to the traditional reading a few keynote lamentations written in response to the pogrom and subsequent events of October 7th. Now we are going to go into entering Tisha B'Av more in a traditional way. Can I ask for a reader? Another one. Sure. Need to take a microphone. It's a long one, Shir. If you get tired in the middle, you can pass the microphone to someone else.
Jerusalem isn't just the physical entity of a city. Jerusalem is a concept that evokes our spiritual aspiration for unity. In Tisha B'Av, as we commemorate the destruction of the earthly Jerusalem, we also recognize the beginning of a spiritual exile. Through the text, we connect with the tears of our ancestors, weeping by the waters of Babylon and yearning for the home that had been lost, but also, as the Book of Lamentations expresses, crying for a broken relationship with God.
Keep going. It's longer. It's 5 slides.
Okay. With the foundation of the State of Israel, for many Jews, Tisha B'Av lost its relevance. After all, we were back home, and that's an undeniable truth. But even the most important miracle that happened to the Jewish people in the last 2,000 years can't prevent us from a spiritual exile. Tisha B'Av marks in our calendar the day after which we undertake the process of return, Shuvah, that we aspire to reach toward Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In Tisha B'Av, we try to recognize our exile. We try to understand how far we are from the places in which we strive to be as individuals and as a society. We admit the painful reality of a distance that has gotten us so far that we are not able to see the promised land. Today we cry. We cry because it's just what we need. Our tears help us see more clearly. We read from the Book of Lamentations, Echa. We engage in one of the most common Jewish practices. We complain, Echa. How can this be possible? But as we cry from the bottom of our hearts and wonder and accuse, Echa, we gradually start to hear God's voice. We hear God's ontological question to Adam, Echa, where are you? A question meant to function as a GPS to our souls. And that, curiously, spells exactly as Echa. However, the Echa question is Ayeka question is an invitation to self-awareness and personal responsibility that can help us trigger the beginning of our journey back.
Last one. Told you, 5.
As the last verse of the Book of Lamentations states, Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Return us to you, Adonai, and we will return. Let us hear your voice. Let us perceive your presence, and we will return. Hadash yemenu kakedem. Let our bitter tears clear up the path for a life of renewal and of unity with our souls and you.
We learn from the Bora segments, a beautiful melody for this nigun that sometimes we sing very rhythmically. I invite you to try to sing it with me very slowly. Ashivenu Adonai elecha, Ashivenu v'nashuva, Ashivenu Hashem elecha, Ashivenu v'nashuva. Hadash yameinu, Hadash yameinu, Hadash yameinu, kedem. Hadash yameinu, Hadash yameinu, Hadash yameinu, kedem. We'll watch now a fragment from a video. Can I ask, there are going to be 2 portions of reading, at the beginning of the video and at the end. Can I ask for a reader for that? Trista, the microphone is next to you. Thank you. And you will see that it's an old logo there. Next year we're going to have Shir Hadash as well.
The road of return. Why was the first temple destroyed? Because of 3 things which prevailed there: idolatry, incest, and bloodshed. But why was the second temple destroyed, seeing that in its time people were occupying themselves with Torah, commandments, and charity? Because therein prevailed hatred without cause. That teaches you that groundless hatred is considered equivalent to 3 sins of idolatry, immortality, and bloodshed together.
Just keep it. Luego, you restart it. Skip ahead? Yep. Shut ahead.
Sorry, friends.
David. When they go to see Michelangelo's David, and when they finally come face to face with the statue, and friends are traveling together in Italy, they go to see Michelangelo's David, and when they finally come face to face with the statue, they both freeze dead in their tracks. The first guy, we'll call him Adam, is transfixed by the beauty of the perfect human form. Second guy, we'll call him Bill, is transfixed by embarrassment at staring at the thing there in the center. So here's my questions for you. Which one of these two guys was more likely to have voted for George Bush? Which for Al Gore? I don't need to show of hands because we all have the same political stereotypes. We all know that it's Bill. And in this case, the stereotype corresponds to a reality. It really is a fact that liberals are much higher than conservatives on a major personality trait called openness to experience. People who are high on openness to experience just crave novelty, variety, diversity, new ideas, travel. People low on it like things that are familiar, that are safe and dependable. If you know about this trait, you can understand a lot of puzzles about human behavior. You can understand why artists are so different from accountants. You can actually predict what kinds of books they like to read, what kinds of places they like to travel to, and what kinds of food they like to eat. Once you understand this trait, you can understand why anybody would eat at Applebee's, but not anybody that you know. This trait also tells us a lot about politics. The main researcher of this trait, Robert McCrae, says that open individuals have an affinity for liberal, progressive, left-wing political views. They like a society which is open and changing. Whereas closed individuals prefer conservative, traditional, right-wing views. This trait also tells us a lot about the kinds of groups people join. So here's a description of a group I found on the web. What kinds of people would join a global community welcoming people from every discipline and culture who seek a deeper understanding of the world and who hope to turn that understanding into a better future for us all? This is from some guy named Ted. Well, let's see now. If openness predicts who becomes liberal, and openness predicts who becomes a Tedster, then might we predict that most Tedsters are liberal? Let's find out. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand whether you are liberal, left of center on social issues we're talking about primarily, or conservative, and I'll give a third option because I know there are a number of libertarians in the audience. So right now, please raise your hand, down in the simulcast rooms too. Let's let everybody see who's here. Please raise your hand if you would say that you are liberal or left of center. Please raise your hand high right now. Okay. Please raise your hand if you say you're libertarian. Okay, about 2 dozen. And please raise your hand if you say you are right of center or conservative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8 or 10. Okay. This is a bit of a problem. Because if our goal is to understand the world, to seek a deeper understanding of the world, our general lack of moral diversity here is going to make it harder. Because when people all share values, when people all share morals, they become a team. And once you engage the psychology of teams, it shuts down open-minded thinking. When the liberal team loses, as it did in 2004 and as it almost did in 2000, we comfort ourselves. We try to explain why half of America voted for the other team. We think they must be blinded by religion or by simple stupidity. So if you think that half of America votes Republican because they are blinded in this way, then my message to you is that you're trapped in a moral matrix, in a particular moral matrix. And by the matrix, I mean literally the matrix like the movie The Matrix. But I'm here today to give you a choice. You can either take the blue pill and stick to your comforting delusions, or you can take the red pill, learn some moral psychology, and step outside the moral matrix. If you want the truth to stand clear before you, never be for or against. The struggle between for and against is the mind's worst disease. Now, unfortunately, it's a disease that has been caught by many of the world's leaders. But before you feel superior to George Bush, before you throw a stone, ask yourself, do you accept this? Do you accept stepping out of the battle of good and evil? Can you be not for or against anything? So what's the point? What should you do? Well, if you take the greatest insights from ancient Asian philosophies and religions and you combine them with the latest research on moral psychology, I think you come to these conclusions, that our righteous minds were designed by evolution to unite us into teams, to divide us against other teams, and then to blind us to the truth. So, what should you do? Am I telling you to not strive? Am I telling you to embrace sense-on and stop with this struggle of for and against? No, absolutely not. I'm not saying that. This is an amazing group of people who are doing so much, using so much of their talent, their brilliance, their energy, their money to make the world a better place, to fight wrongs, to solve problems. But as we learned from Samantha Power in her story about Sergio Vieira de Mello, You can't just go charging in saying you're wrong and I'm right. Because as we just heard, everybody thinks they are right. A lot of the problems we have to solve are problems that require us to change other people. And if you want to change other people, a much better way to do it is to first understand who we are, understand our moral psychology, understand that we all think we're right, and then step out, even if it's just for a moment, step out, check in with Senson. Step out of the moral matrix, just try to see it as a struggle playing out in which everybody does think they're right, and everybody at least has some reasons. Even if you disagree with them, everybody has some reasons for what they're doing. Step out, and if you do that, that's the essential move to cultivate moral humility, to get yourself out of this self-righteousness, which is the normal human condition.
From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled, like a yard. But doubts and love dig up the world like a mole a plow, and a whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood.
We're going to now turn to the next slide. And I would ask you to... So the rabbinical tradition says that the Mikdash nechraf over unjustified hatred between siblings. But luckily for us, even though the rabbis did have opinions, the statement doesn't say of this group against this group or this group against that group. Unjustified hatred. And one of the invitations that Tisha B'Av opens before us is to think about our contributions for that, our personal contributions for that. And the poem of Amichai, from the place where we are right, will never emerge flowers in the spring, and we will always stand up over the remains of a house that is destroyed. It's an invitation also to reflect about our ability to see the new things. I want to, can you turn on the light? Half of it on the left side. So if we go to the next slide, there are two readings. One is from Midrash Rabbah. Thank you. And one is literally about darkness. The first one is about darkness. And one is from Midrash Rabbah. And the other one is for Hidushei Arim. I want to invite you to read for yourself and then to turn to the person who is next to you and take a moment you can read to each other or to Hebruta. I ask you to not to move around too much, but turn to the person next to you. And we have two prompts for reflection. What are the things that we struggle to see or we do not want to see? And is there a place we should, but we refuse to move from? What are the things that we refuse to see or we don't want to see? If there is such a thing, if we recognize such a thing. And if there is a place that we recognize that we need to move from that place, but we really struggle to do that. So I'm about to read with your Hebruta, and we're going to take exactly 5 minutes. Okay. So we're going to take one more minute. Heads up, one more minute. No. Don't worry. No, but I got. I needed to push my voice, and I wasn't. And the one when I understood that I needed to, I did, but I couldn't hit it without pushing. Okay, friends, can I ask you to? I am asking you to come back politely. Kind of. Let that come. That was very fast. Is there anybody that want to? We'll take 2 or 3 or 4, 5 comments. 5 comments, short comments. If you want to share something that emerged in your conversation. Sorry, we need microphone to go.
This reminded me of, I don't know if it was a story or a parable about the people that were in hell or somewhere, and their arms were all straight.
The story
right?
of the spoons.
And they would have,
Long spoons.
if they were only thinking about themselves, they would die, but they figured out that by feeding each other, they could survive.
It's the story of the people sitting at the table with in a castle with very, very long spoons and that are tied to their hands, and they cannot feed themselves, and the only way actually they have to enjoy the banquet is by feeding one another.
Yeah, I think that story has a couple of. Of course it is.
Yeah, and that's true also for every single song. It was once part of the melodies that the Levites sang. No, but there is a Hasidic theory that says that. And so every time that Jews sing some song that comes from some other tradition, there's this Hasidic saying that we have redeemed a nigun. So that was a part of the nigunim that we used to own in the Great Temple. Anyway, thank you for sharing. Any other comments? I'll take 2, 3 more. Rabbi, you want to share?
We were.
Thank you.
So we were discussing. I used to do capoeira, like a Brazilian martial art, and we talked about the sort of the psychological darkness we have here. But in capoeira, we have an idea, right? There are, regardless of skill level, there are 3 ways of playing. There are those who play in darkness. They don't quite perceive the effects of their actions or see the person across from them. And there are those who play in light, who are able to connect and dialogue physically with the person across from them. But I was thinking about this passage in capoeira because there's a 3rd intermediate step. There are those who play in water, right, where we can see, but we are somehow unable to actualize. And I wish I got the chance to say that to the Chidushei Harim. But it's something I think there are degrees of darkness, or there are degrees of this lack of ability to connect to those across from us. So that's what we were pondering over here.
Daniel. And Rachel.
I'll give it to Daniel.
It reminded me of the COVID lockdown when we were all sitting in darkness, not knowing if we'd see our loved ones again in the hospital, not knowing if they would die, be here for us. Like 6 days of darkness. But then when we came out, it just seemed like we were able to see ourselves again.
Thank you. Rachel, you wanted to share something?
Well, we were
talking about being stuck and how the connection between being stuck and not seeing another person. And so when we talked about how hard it is to get out of being stuck, I wondered if the cure of being stuck to do that, because you asked the question, am I stuck on something that I don't want to let go of? And I wondered if the cure of that is to turn this the other way, than really seeing another person might be a way out of being stuck.
Thank you. We're gonna turn to the next slide. So we're gonna say the words from Tehillim, from Psalms, that say "Im eshkachech Yerushalayim," if I forget you, Jerusalem, several times. But we're about to go into Lamentations themselves. So it is nice. Well, I don't know if nice, but it is meaningful to see how different melodies have approached those lines. My voice is a bit destroyed today. I'm not fully recovered, so it sounds a bit broken and it's mic'd. So I'm sorry for that, but I think you'll deal with that. Im lo ha'aleh, ve'im lo ha'aleh, Yerushalayim ha'arosh. Simchati ha'arosh, simchati im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini tidvak leshoni lechiki im im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini tidvak leshoni lechiki
Yerushalayim arosh simchati arosh simchati.
It's hard to move here.
So during the Hagim, there's different Megillot that we chant. And so for Tisha B'Av, we chant from Lamentations, from Echa. And so we begin first with doing the blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu amikra Megillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem b'zman hazeh. And then we join together in the, we do Shehechanu, or you said?
We say Shehechanu, but not the peak one.
No, so, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lasman hazeh.
So we are going to read some excerpts from the Megillah. we want to have a taste of the trope, but also of the language of the Megillah, which is like, I don't know if you have read from the book of Lamentations, but it's tough language and very graphic language. So we're going to read the first and the fifth chapters, the experts we have from those chapters. We're going to chant them. Cantor will chant them, no we. Cantor will chant them in Hebrew, and for the other ones, we will ask for volunteers to read in English.
Rabati am aita ka almana rabati vagoyim sarati bamedinot aita lamas bachotivke balayla vidim ata alecheya en la menachem mikol ohaveha koreha bagduva hayula leoyevim gata Yehuda meoni umerov avodah ישבה בגויים, לא מצא מנוח. קורותיה השיגוה בין המצרים, דרכי ציון אבלות, מבלי בהם מועד, כל שעריה שוממים, כהניה נאנחים, בתולותיה נוגות והימלה. היו צריה לראש, אויביה שלו, כי אדוני הוגה על רוב פשעיה. עולליך הלכו שבי לפני צר.
David, can you go with the next two slides?
Alas, alas, the Lord in his wrath has shamed fair Zion, has cast down from heaven to earth the majesty of Israel. He did not remember his footstool on his day of wrath. The Lord has laid waste without pity all the habitations of Jacob. He has raised in his anger fair Judah's stronghold. He has brought low in dishonor the kingdom and its leaders. In blazing anger he has cut down all the might of Israel. He has withdrawn his right hand in the presence of the foe. He has ravaged Jacob like flaming fire, consuming on all sides. He bent his bow like an enemy, poised his right hand like a foe. He slew all who delighted the eye. He poured out his wrath like fire in the tent of fair Zion. The Lord has acted like a foe. He has laid waste Israel, laid waste all her citadels, destroyed her strongholds. He has increased within fair Judah mourning and moaning. He has stripped his booth like a garden. He has destroyed his tabernacle. The Lord has ended in Zion festival and Sabbath. In his raging anger, he has spurned king and priest.
Julie?
See, O Lord, and behold, to whom you have done this. Alas, women eat their own fruit, their newborn babes. Alas, priest and prophet are slain in the sanctuary of the Lord. He has worn away my flesh and skin. He has shattered my bones. All around me he has built misery and hardship. He has made me dwell in darkness like those long dead. He has walled me in, and I cannot break out. He has weighed me down with chains. Alas, the gold is dull, debased the finest gold. The sacred gems are spilled at every street corner. The precious children of Zion, once valued as gold, alas, they are accounted as earthen pots, work of a potter's hands. Even jackals offer the breast and suckle their young, but my poor people have turned cruel, like ostriches of the desert. The tongue of the suckling cleaves to its palate for thirst. Little children beg for bread. None gives them a morsel. Those who feasted on dainties lie famished in the streets. Those who were reared in purple have embraced refuse heaps. The guilt of my poor people exceeded the iniquity of Sodom, which was overthrown in a moment without a hand striking it. Her elect were purer than snow, whiter than milk. Their limbs were ruddier than coral. Their bodies were like sapphire.
זקנים משער שבתו, בחורים מנגינתם, שבת משוש ליבנו, נפח לאבל מחולנו, נפלה עטרת ראשנו, עונה לנו כי חטאנו. על זה היה דווה ליבנו. Give me a second. על זה היה דווה ליבנו, על אלה חשכו עינינו, על הר ציון ששמם שועלים הלכו בו. אתה אדוני לעולם תשב, כיסאך לדור ודור. למה לנצח תשכחנו, תעזבנו לאורך ימים. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם. כי אם העוס מאסתנו, קצבת עלינו עד מאוד. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו.
We got to end the book. So,
חדש ימינו כקדם.
Well, let's try it together now.
חדש ימינו כקדם.
On this Tisha B'Av, we also read Kinot, Lamentations, written in response to the pogrom and subsequent events of October 7th. Oren, can I ask you to read the first one?
Which language?
Matarutze. You know what? If maybe it's just for the first verse, at least in Hebrew. So it's written as a kinah. It's really written as Lamentations.
Sorry, the entire thing in Hebrew, or just?
No, it's just maybe the first verse, and then you can go in English.
Okay.
Or we all have it in English and in Hebrew. So.
Okay. איכה ישבה בדד, ניר עוז רבתי דם. שדרות הייתה כאלמנה, קריה עלומה, ומי נאמנה. Oh, how they sat alone in the shelter room, one family and another and another and another one. Oh, how they sat alone, the many-eyed women at the observation posts, and there was no listening and deliverance, none. איכה ישבו בדד צעירות וצעירים במסדורי שוחות ושיחים. Their dancing halted, and who will rescue them? Oh, how they sat alone, captive women and captive men, and sitting there, still, 120 men, women, elders, and children, crying. They are crying at night. Tears are on their cheeks, and there is no one who comforts.
Then the next one, we're going to ask someone else. There's another one. This one was written by Liora Ayalon. In English.
Oh, how your
You know what?
dwellings-
When you see the oh how, like maybe you want to say
Oh,
echa.
echa. Echa. Oh, how your dwellings have been turned into ruins. Your people become exiles in their own land. Oh, betrayed land, your sons betrayed you. They put their desires before all else. They sealed your fate with their very tongues. They abandoned you in their hearts, lost in their ways. Echa. Oh, how your kibbutzim were destroyed, cities made desolate, your people dead, your fields wasting away, furrows ravaged, become fields of horror, all eyes devastated, dried out of tears. Your sons, daughters butchered, undefended, fair maidens hauled into captivity, and the plotters standing before them, whispering, rustling, and the land was silent. Woe unto you, you cowards, sitting carelessly in your cushioned chairs, entrusted with the lives of beloved captives, while mothers and fathers are wrapped in their grief.
We will yet return and rebuild you, the soil of our homeland. We will yet return and sing in your fields joyous song. Your sons will yet return to love and forgive. Your daughters will yet return to complete the thankful song. For neighbors and fellows who had become our enemies, when our eyes will see peace between us, and we will cast a prayer together for borders and tranquility, for becoming good neighbors, for leaders with humility, that we will respect each other, brothers and sisters, when you will sprout again, land, grain, and wheat.
Thank you. Charlotte, can you read the next one? This is a very old poem from Yehuda Amichai Alevi, sorry. That I was corrected 3 times already. Someone else wants to say? So the vocabulary of lamentations that was used also by this to woman that experienced October 7th is so in correlation with the vocabulary of lamentations, and I think that part of the, I don't know if it's beauty, but part of the power of the book of Lamentations is this possibility to cry out loud and to cry with the words of how we are experiencing our pain and our disaster. It's interesting to hear from someone in medieval times yearning for the land of Israel, seeing that so differently from afar.
My heart is in the east, and I am at the ends of the west. How can I taste what I eat, and how could it be pleasing to me? How shall I render my vows and my bonds, while yet Zion lies beneath the fetter of Edom, and I am in the chains of Arabia? It would be easy for me to leave all the bounty of Spain, as it is precious for me to behold the dust of the desolate sanctuary.
Sharat Maut, the gate of tears. Though the gates of prayer have been locked, nevertheless, the gate of tears have not been locked. This is from Baba Metzia, 59. Before we go into that, Rabbi Michael will read a very, very phenomenal Hasidic story. I want to put a nigun in the back of your mind. We are going to sing, and it's about tears later on with similar words to those that we have used from the book of Psalms earlier. Try to me. Yada nada nai 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 nai. Yai nai 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 nai. Yai nai 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 nai. Yai nai nai. Oh da dai 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 ya da dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 dai. Yada dai dai dai. Yada dai 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 dai.
It's hard for us to imagine being in touch with someone in another world, but for the Rebbes, for the holy masters, it was another thing altogether. For them, from this world to the upper realms was so close. So close. And before Rabbi Yitzhak Vorker left this world, he promised his son he would contact him from heaven and tell him how things were for him in Gan Eden. But 4 weeks passed, and his son didn't hear from him. He couldn't understand what was going on, so he went to his father's best friend, Rebbe Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, and said, Rebbe, I'm so worried about my holy father. He promised to come back to me and speak to me, if only in a dream. But it has been 4 weeks, and I haven't heard anything from him. Do you think something could have happened to him in heaven? And the Kotzker Rebbe answered, the truth is that your father also promised me to come back and tell me what happened to him in the world above. And I got worried when I didn't hear from him, so I went to heaven to look for him. Let me tell you what happened. I went everywhere in heaven searching for your father. I went to the palaces of all the tzaddikim, all the holy people of Rashi, the Rambam, Rabbi Akiva. I visited the place of the prophets, and even went to the very highest levels, to Moshe Rabbeinu and our holy fathers, Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Everywhere I went, I said, I'm looking for my friend, the exalted Rabbi Yitzhak Vorker. Have you seen him? And they all told me, yes, he was here, but he didn't stay. He went on. I didn't know what to do, where else to go. So finally I asked the angels, have you seen the holy Rebbe Yitzhak Vorker? Do you know where he went? And this time I got an answer. The angels told me, if you keep going in this direction, you'll come to a thick, dark forest. You must pass through it, and when the forest ends at the sea, that's where you'll find him. So I kept walking through heaven, and as the angels had said, I soon came to the darkest, most forbidding forest I had ever seen in my life. I wanted to run away. I started to hear a strange sound. Finally, I came out of the trees, and I found myself on the shore of the sea, an ocean so big I could not see the other side. And I realized that the sound I'd been hearing was coming from the waves. But it was not the sound that waves usually make. It was more like a wail, a moan, a scream, full of the most desperate pain. Never in my life had I heard waves crying and begging like this. And there, at the edge of the ocean, I saw your father, the holy Vorker. He was leaning on his staff, staring at the sea. He never took his eyes off the water. I ran towards him. Rabbi Yitzchak, my holy friend, what is this place? What are you doing here? He turned towards me. Ah, Mendel, don't you recognize this ocean? No. What is it? What's that sound? What's going on here? Mendel, let me tell you. This is the ocean of tears, the sea of all Jewish tears. I want you to know that every tear is so precious to the Master of the world. God takes all the tears and places them here, and there were so many tears that they formed this huge ocean. When I came here and heard the sound of the waves, the cry of all the suffering of so many, I can't tell you how much it broke my heart. At that moment, I made a sacred vow. Ribono shel olam, I swear to you, by your holy name, that I will not move from this place until you have mercy on your people, until you turn all the pain to joy. My dear friend, said the holy Rebbe, I will never leave this ocean until God has wiped away all the tears.
By the waters of Babylon, lay our lives down, lay our lives down, sad and cry. By the waters of Babylon, we sang no sacred songs, sang no sacred songs, our tongues were tied. Whoa, 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 I forget you, Jerusalem, I play no more again, play no more again, no one more time. Won't you show me Jerusalem, raised and broken, raised and broken, alone on high.
But how do we reintegrate and collect the old and broken parts of self? And what affords us the ability to do so? A tear is a cleansing agent. The waters of our tears rinse out, purify, and ultimately allows for full transformation to transpire. In between the two extremes of throwing into the water and gathering from the water are the 10 days of Teshuvah. In these honest days of introspection and deeply opening up, who is not moved to tears? If you are aware and conscious of the times, and you open up and expose all of yourself to yourself, and let it all come out, you will eventually find yourself crying. If not, says Ari R. Yitzhak Luria, your soul is not complete. Something is seriously amiss and drastically misaligned. Paradoxically, this awareness itself of your lack of inspiration will catapult you and may even shake you out of your complacency and spiritual insensitivity. Either way, by the time we have reached the climax at the end of Yom Kippur, our tears have utterly inspired a total reorientation so that we can recollect and regather our lost parts and establish them within the new elevated context of our life.
Can I ask for someone else to read this opening page? Or you can read that yourself, Krista. I appreciate that.
The Gate of Mercy, aka Golden Gate, in Jerusalem's old city walls is a symbol of much-awaited salvation. In Jewish tradition, this is where the Messiah will enter the old city, coming from the Mount of Olives. The gate is blocked since the 16th century.
It's a modern Israeli song that I am really hoping that Oren knows well. I really am. That speaks about the Golden Gate, the Shar Rachamim. There's a gate of tears that we spoke about, that it always remains open. And to some extent, that gate of tears leads to the ability to rebuild ourselves and to enter through the open gate of Rachamim, of mercy. This was written by a modern Israeli composer and musician, Meir Banai. מסתובב בעיר הישנה ורשבה כל פינה. What did you do, Noga? Well, I'm going to go to the original key. We have a transcription about that, but I cannot see that here. I throw it under the bus. Sorry, I cannot see me at all. We're going to go again. מסתובב בעיר הישנה ורשמה מכל פינה. אני מכיר כבר את דרכי, זאת הדרך לשער הרחמים. לא מביט סביב ולא מקשיב, לא חולם אני מכיר כבר את דרכי, זאת הדרך לשער הרחמים. חי פעם, רק פעם, יש טעם, אין טעם, עם כוח, בלי כוח, שער הרחמים. בואי איתי יחד, בואי מתוך הפחד, כי את גם חלק משער הרחמים. השלטים מעל החנויות משקיפים הרחמים. בואי איתי יחד, בואי מתוך הפחד, את גם חלק משאר הרחמים. בואי איתי יחד, בואי מתוך הפחד, כי גם את חלק משאר הרחמים. I want to explain something about my wife. Her writing is so perfect that it looks like printed. So we wrote on top of the thing, and it's so perfect that it looks like printed. I was like, what do you do? Like, it looks perfect. So that's when I do that for myself, it's easy to recognize that it's something else. It's perfect. So sorry, Metuka. I'm sorry for missing all the chords.
Fixing the sacred vessels from Exodus. V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. And from Shmot Rabbah, from Exodus Rabbah. Take for me an offering. This is the meaning of the verse, I was sleeping, yet my heart was awake. The people Israel said, I have been asleep in regard to the end. However, the Holy One is awake. I am asleep from the story of the calf, but my heart is awake, and the Holy One captivates me. Open up for me, my sister, my friend. For how long must I travel without a home? So the Torah says, make me a sanctuary, ve'asu li mikdash, so that I need not be on the outside.
So I want to share two words. We can to conclude. There's something about Tisha B'Av in which we stop to recognize all the tragedies that have occurred to us. But Tisha B'Av is not an end road. It's not the end of the road. Like the entire idea of Tisha B'Av is that it's a one-day thing. You stay there for one day. You prepare for 3 weeks, and you stay there for one day. And then you move on. You don't stay mourning forever. And not only that, Tisha B'Av was, to some extent, a strategic decision of our tradition to bring many of the tragedies that happened to us to one day. And the ultimate image of destruction is the remains, is the debris of the Beit HaMikdash, of the great temple. And it is very symbolic. A couple of days later, we acknowledge Tu B'Av, the holiday of love in our tradition, the 15th of the month of Av. It is quite symbolic that the preparation for the Yamim HaNoraim, for the High Holidays, starts in Tu B'Av, 6 weeks before the first day of the month of Tishrei. And I think that there is an important message that you are not supposed to run to fix what is broken. You're supposed to acknowledge what is broken, even though you might feel very compelled not to think about that for a moment and just to get it done, right? You're supposed to take time to cry over the debris of the house that has been lost and to mourn for that home. But there is no way to make it back home from that place. If there's a future home to which we return, it cannot be from a place of of the Book of Lamentations. We cannot be in Eicha. How is this possible? You need to be in Ayeka. You need to be in the where are you question, not in the how is it possible question. And I think that the transition into love, the shifting into love is exactly what the calendar tries to provide for us in order to be able to do the work, which is symbolic that during the month of Elul and during the Yamim Noraim, the High Holies, we work on our spiritual return, Teshuvah. And Tisha B'Av symbolizes our physical exile from which we want to return as well. So there's something physical and spiritual that come together. And the only way around is by understanding that our actions even matter and that what we bring to a table makes a difference, and that we are, through the power of those actions, right, building a Mishkan. Like the temple is not at least in my vision of the world, I think that the vision of many of us of the world, is not the messianic idea of a building, but rather the idea in the book of Exodus, or through the power of our actions, creating a tabernacle, creating a sanctuary. And so what will make a difference is how we go about our business after Tisha B'Av, and how we bring love. And so we're gonna open it to a vote. We're gonna conclude singing O Sanctuary, which is Asuli Mikdash V'Shachanti B'Tocham, or it was the next one, Rabbi. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. And so, who wants Sanctuary? Who wants Olam Chesed Yibaneh? We can have both. Go for the first one. Talking about the Teshuva, I'm starting with my wife for blaming her for helping me out, actually. My guitar is in a Tisha B'Av mood. Okay. Sorry, friends. Asuli Mikdash V'Shachanti B'Tocham Anachnu Nevarech Yah Me'ata prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Asuli to be weary, pure and holy, dry and true. Never living sanctuary for you. Yibaneh Yadadai 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 Olam Chesed
Banei. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai.
Olam chesed yibaneh. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yadadai,
Yadadai, yadadai.
I will build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. I will
Build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai.
if
We build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. Then God will build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 yadadai.
We'll have a meaningful Tisha B'Av. Some of us will be starting tomorrow with Adar. We encourage you to join us. And if you want to stay around and chat a little bit and do some chevruta over any of the texts, you're encouraged and welcome. Adar is doing an entire day of conversation.
If you go to our website, you